Okay, that was Thomas warming up. This is Betsy and Thomas for the American Intelligence Media, and today we want to look at Trump tweets in a different way. We want to look at this whole group of tweets about fake news, fake media, and we're asking that all of our first-tier media creators listen up, because we all need to push the war now on the media. All of us out here, it's time to go full-scale war against fake media. Thomas, explain what we're looking at.
Well, Betsy, you've said it right there. It's the mainstream media is rotten to the core. Not only Avid management, Avid and ISIS management stand behind the prompters so that they're all reading the same thing, and we've pointed out before, it's a monopoly, it's racketeering, it's lying, it's in violation of our laws, and if the FCC would do their job, they would simply bring the broadcasting decency laws into play here and charge these slanderers who've been spending 2 years giving out literally 100% false facts and certainly false opinion about our duly elected president. And that means that the media, which is supposed to be standing there for we the people, it's supposed to be the estate, the fourth estate that defends the third estate, we the people, against corrupt government and against corrupt churches. But no, it seems as if the fourth estate now is in direct connection with corporations and have been for a long time, which we may explain here in a minute. But they basically do the bidding of corporations, of bankers, of brokers, of people who are into intelligence and basically the information war. And it is a war. And it's been a war since the time that information has been able to be broadcast and that it could go faster than a human could go on a boat or on a train or any other land type of vehicle. In those days, matter of fact, carrier pigeons were the secret to the Jesuit espionage, and also then later to the Rothschild initial banking espionage, which was banking based upon war. And if they knew who just won the battle, then they were able to manipulate markets hundreds of miles away, because the carrier pigeons would arrive before the news by land or by sea. So whoever controls the information controls the military. And of course, the military is what drives our economies throughout the world these days. And so whoever controls information controls the military, controls the economy. And then who pays for that? That would be the taxpayers, we the people. So we the people then must be given something for it. So they broadcast to us nonstop who we should be, what our fashion should be, what the newest thing to buy is, all the commercialism which we all know. And we actually, some of us, we find that to be interesting. And others, it's the entertainment they give us. For others, it's the sports. For others, it's the free roam of the internet that takes them into pornography or gambling or whatever their vice is, whatever one of the 7 deadly sins they might wish to partake in, completely available on the internet. Because why? Broadcasting. Things are broadcast. And when they're broadcast and you're able to broadcast back, because that's what we're all doing now with our phones, that's what we're all doing with our computers, we're broadcasting back. And there's supposed to be laws governing what can be broadcast. But now, as Trump has pointed out, the mainstream media, and all the media, except the fifth column over here, the alternative media, they are in fact showing who they are.
Well, let's be clear with what that is, alternative media, because I define alternative media as the people that came in early on, and you know who they are. You can look and see when they began. And I believe that they are prop-ups to keep limited hangouts so that people won't really go into the deep truth. All right? And so there is much the problem as fake media. And then we have what we call now the independent media, which I hope is what truth is about, the truth movement is about.
And as Trump has pointed out, mainstream media is not only the enemy of the people, it's also the opposition party. It's also, as he has said, they've gone mad, they've gone crazy, they're lunatics. And at this point, it's pretty much known now in the last few years that all the major media stations are owned by basically 6 groups. And those 6 groups all have certain proclivities. And if you wanted to go into those, you could get pretty mean and nasty with your accusations. But let's just say that it's all the same thing. It's all vanilla. It's all owned by the same people with the same proclivities. And broadcasting to begin with, when it started, was really based upon newspapers. And it was based upon, as I said, literally the Rothschilds' carrier pigeon intelligence network, which was also used by the Jesuits and others. And so the first broadcasting, what were the first newspapers about? They were selling you on what to spend your money on. In other words, they were bankers telling you whether things were good or not. Well, they were good or not because the bankers told you they were good or not. And people didn't understand that as they read the newspaper, it was what they wanted you to believe, not what was real. And when they saw that was so effective, that the first Reuters in Britain was then bought by the Rothschilds family and was used then exclusively for their intelligence throughout Europe and into America. And to this very day, Thomson Reuters, only recently was Thomson added, and finally the Rothschilds got out. And in America, it was the Rothschilds who owned the companies that were the Associated Press, which then became a cooperative. But they're still owned by the same people, so it doesn't matter that it's a cooperative. So it's the same people, the same family bankers that we see behind the military-industrial complex, behind the Fortune 500 companies, and behind the mainstream media. I could list the names. You all know them. The point is, it's a monopoly. It's racketeering. And now, because of research done with Americans for Innovation and Michael McKibben and his researchers and us here at Aim for Truth and the Anonymous Patriots, we have discovered that Dianne Feinstein's husband, Michael Bloom...
No, Richard C. Bloom.
Richard C. Bloom, excuse me. I get too many Michaels in the mix. Richard C. Bloom owns 10% of a company called Avid, which is ran by ISIS Management, which basically puts all your news at the bottom of the prompters. So the Rhodes Scholar, Rachel Madcow, and the FBI trained in paperclip Anderson Cooper.
I thought he was CIA.
I'm CIA trained, in paperclip. And that there are many, many, many journalists who are on the take with the government, and they were placed there because that is where you control the propaganda. That is where you control public opinion. Public opinion controls where discretionary cash goes to. And so the money that's still left out there floating after they steal from you through the IRS, your income tax for previous wars that you or your family were never involved in and that no one ever voted on, they then continue to take and take and take, and you get to participate and you get to believe what you're told. Now, if you're told on 7 out of 8 network agencies that a certain thing is true, and they show you different pictures.
Like walls are immoral?
Yes.
Take that narrative. Now you hear it everywhere. And then you've got people out there full of fluoride. They can't think. They went to government schools for their indoctrination, so they believe this stuff.
It's unbelievable that they believe it, but they've heard it so many times over and over with subliminal programming. And broadcasting is also now, it's completely legal to broadcast into your mind not only words and images, but entire narratives. And these narratives can come down to one particular picture that can be taken by the brain. It can be put into a digitized form and then can be broadcast to you subliminally. This can be done also from the repeater towers all around you for the microwave. It can be done with microwave. It can be done with diffuse laser. And now, when 5G hits, it will be able to be done easily. Remember, 5G is using only the medium band millimeter waves that are used by the military in those antennas that they can make people go to sleep, drop to the ground, run away screaming, feel like their skin's on fire. That's what can happen from any tower that has 5G on it, especially the new 5G that can go up into ranges of 100, not just down into the 60s, which is the range they were using for this active defense program. So what we see here now is broadcasting is beyond what anyone can imagine. There's military broadcasting agencies that are in charge of certain elements. There's the FCC that's in charge of other elements. And basically, there's nothing else. Because you can basically broadcast freely these days, as long as your radio station and your ham radio station or otherwise gets approval by the government. You can broadcast waves that go through everybody's body throughout the world after they bounce off the atmosphere a few times. But the point is, the stronger your antenna, the more you can broadcast through people's body. How about the people whose bodies are being broadcast through? Were they asked? When we started broadcasting wirelessly, because of an interview that is going to arise here soon with Michael Thomas from State of the Nation and Michael McKibben, who is the founder of Leader Technologies, we're going to be talking about what we need to do to end the mainstream media. But we need to put it in historical perspective, and we need to bring it up to modern times and realize that they're one and the same. We're talking about the continued weaponization of technology from the moment that it's born, and the initial patent is usually stolen, like Marconi. Marconi did not invent wireless, it was Tesla. So when the Brits used Marconi, an Italian cutout, to be the representative for the stolen patent from Tesla here in America, they then created a company that they snuck back in through Canada and into America until we thought that it was an American company, but it never was. It was Britain. And the British company was RCA, Radio Corporation of America. It should have been Radio Corporation of Britain, because that's who owned it, that's who ran it.
No, it was always Royal Corporation of America.
I know, but the point is we should be naming it the truth instead of the lie. And then it was named General Electric, and then it was named Serco. And in the end, it was ran by the number one propagandist. If you wanted to talk about a person more concerned about broadcasting than anyone else on the earth, that would be Sir Geoffrey Patty of the Queen's Privy Council, because he not only ran Strategic Communications Laboratory that intervened in our last presidential election and meddled under the auspices of Russian meddling, but was actually paid for by Obama through the Global Engagement Center. That's the type of broadcasting that still goes on because it's weaponized. But the research goes back to World War I and Marconi, and the fact that the moment that a high technology was invented that caused intelligence to be able to be broadcast and go faster than the normal methods of land or even air or water, or by air it could be the pigeons. But however you want to look at it, it went faster, and wireless then became immediately weaponized and turned over to the war board in England. And it was used against Germany in a way that they had never put an embargo or sanctions on a country before, because they simply cut into the cable, and determined what they would allow to be sent through or not. That's called the National Security Agency here in America. In Britain, it's called the General Communications Headquarters, and Robert Hannigan was the head of it, came over and literally spied on Trump, because the Five Eyes, which are supposed to be watching all the broadcasting and all the cyber this and that's, in fact, one of those eyes is Britain, and Britain is poking us in the eye. They're not helping us. They're working against us. They've always been working against us, even before, during, and after the American Revolution. And we believe now that the American Revolution is not over, even though we say that we're in a second American Revolution, stopping the George Soros coup d'etat, which they call the Purple Revolution. So there is a revolution going on now. It's about information, and it's the mainstream media where the battle is playing out. Now, as that is happening politically, what are they doing? Bombarding us with 5G everywhere you look so you can't think anymore. And literally, someone said the other day, and I thought it was so apropos, 5G is there to make sure you can't think anymore. I would say that it's absolutely right.
And other thing, too, is that 5G is the juice that the Internet of Things needs. And we've shown you that diagram before of an actual patent by Richard C. Walker. It's the Internet of Things. And what happens with 5G is it gets turned on.
And then when the FBI shows up, they can make toast before they come and open your door without having to kick it in and have some coffee already made for them. The garage door open and they can run your house before you get there off the Internet of Things.
It totally gives up the freedoms that any human being will ever have.
And once they go through your house, then they look at your social credit score and they decide that you've been talking to the wrong people. And so they arrest you at work and take you off to jail, and basically all done without any need for a court or anything else, because they have the proof right there. It's all electronic. So when you're signing up for the Internet of Things, as Betsy says, you're signing up for the electronic digital prison planet, which is one step beyond anything we've ever had. It's on digital steroids. Now,
but they need 5G.
Well, let's go into that in just a minute. We're not even prepared for 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G. Those are generations. They don't stand for gigahertz. And we never were. No one has ever done any studies, and if they have done any studies, they're not longitudinal. And any longitudinal studies that have been done have been swept under the rug. And the ones that we have now seen coming out absolutely at an amazing pace are ones that have been hidden for sometimes generations. From the beginning, they wondered if radio propagation, wireless, from the beginning of the 20th century, is it going to affect us? What kind of magical force is this that can go through our bodies and doesn't harm us? Well, folks, it does harm you. All of them harm you. And as they join together and the amalgamation of the many radio frequencies that are beaming through your body, through your column of water, which is sensitive to these vibrations, you are absolutely perhaps adapting, but people are not adapting, and they actually have illnesses that have been found since the beginning of these things, even from the time that they started to run the wires for telegraph. So what we're looking at now is, it's very clear, there is no broadcasting that is not, there is no major broadcasting that has not been weaponized by the different factions who control them. So when you look at who controls mainstream media in America, it comes down to 6 companies, and the people who run them, really, they're not Americans. Let's just put it that way. You can find it clearly. All you have to do is Google who owns the 6 major media companies, and you will be shocked at what all they own and what all they control. And it won't take you 5 seconds to say, oh my gosh, I've been brainwashed every time I'm watching NBC because Coca-Cola is owned by bump. And pretty soon you can start realizing, yes, all your life, there has not been a moment, if you've been as old as I am, where the radio and the television has not told you what to do and you are happy to do it. It's not what 1984 and Brave New World say, that they're going to watch you through the TV, though they do that now. It's that we're happy to watch the TV and the telephone and be obsessed by it, be controlled by it, be enslaved by it. And so what we have here is the moment that they developed high technology broadcasting, they understood that it was brainwashing. Period. You really don't have a chance when you're in a passive mode listening to the radio with all your might. For every word, those words imprint. And when you're watching television and they basically are causing your kidneys and your adrenal glands to go through basically being scared to death by the flashes of lights and the sounds and the horrible sounds that you're seeing on television, and then your cortisol is being sent to the brain, you don't even have control of your body when you're watching television, let alone the subliminal controls, let alone the commercial subliminal messages being sent to you.
And again, people ask us all the time why we don't have moving pictures and why we won't Skype and show our faces. Well, one of the reasons is for this. We're trying to help you unwind your brainwashing. So now, just by listening to our voices, you have to use your imaginative forces to conjure up the people and the places that we might be speaking of.
You can no longer believe what you see if it comes to a digital form. That's a fact. Because they can now take anybody's body and they can just record you for a moment and they can create an emulation of you digitally that looks just like the real thing. You cannot believe most of what you hear, and so you have to ask the question, what is it you can believe? And you have to figure out how to discern these things. And if you do not understand that you're being brainwashed and that the Tavistock Frankfurt School programming that has been going on for war, this is war psyops, you are part of a weaponized psyops, not only for commercial sakes, but for political sake, for religious sake, for every sake you can possibly imagine, because however you get your information, that is what you are enslaved to. And if you haven't figured out a way to see through it and to hear through it and to know through what you're being told, then you need to develop that, because we are in an age where falsehood politics rules. We are in post-truth age. We are in the age where lying, there's nothing wrong with lying. Our entire government is just nothing but lies. And that's what we see. And right now, we're going to talk, after Betsy says a few words about some of the things we've talked about so far, we're going to talk about Trump and 5G, because there's a lot of confusion. We're going to show you how the very techniques we're talking about that have been going on for over 100 years, and they get passed on to corporate families who become dynasties, who use war as the way to hide and keep secrets, but in fact they become the robber barons of our age, who still, to this very moment, control the economics that control our debt enslavement to paying taxes and to literally saying allegiance to a flag for freedom, but yet do we have freedom?
Well, again, it takes Trump. He continues to tweet out fake news, fake news, fake news. He's doing that for a reason. He's trying, like we are, to wake you up. It's hard to pull yourself out of brainwashing really fast. And that's why we see people around us who just keep resisting or absolutely go bonkers if you say anything that crushes the worldview as they see it. So we have to gently start waking people up. This has been a war that's been waged against us. It's been over 100 years. It's a propaganda war. And all the wars that we fought in between, the ones where real people died and there was real suffering, that's part of this whole propaganda war that's been waged on us. Now, the antidote, which is the good news, is through education. So I guess that's why you found two teachers here trying to teach you what the real history of the world is. And this is what you and Michael are going to be reviewing in the next couple of videos. Just what was this history that got us here? And then, yes, a lot of people will write in and they're very upset that what they see is Trump supporting 5G rollout. And if you could talk about that.
Yes, but first, Betsy, to talk about what you just mentioned with Michael Thomas and Michael McKibben, it's interesting that as we try to lay out the history that clearly shows what the future is, and that's, if people want to understand, we don't use a crystal ball, we use a careful analysis of history, looking at the symptomology of history, looking at basically the linguistics of history. We have to open up new words to new icons, to new leitmotifs that lead us into the future. And so as it's not even a word, 5G is said, certain mystical things happen to people, which we'll go into in just a minute, and other people become outraged and other people want to vomit. Why is that? It's a new archetype that is not understood. So Betsy and I try to put things in perspective, to try to frame things with the historical perspective, and to give you basically political, geopolitical, and spiritual commentary showing how to find the truth in our age. Because really, your entire life
has been a lie.
My good folks, has been generally a lie, and your job is to find the truth. Not only the truth, but the eternal truth. And when you find the eternal truth, you find your eternal self. And that's really, when you reach that when you cross the bridge, as we call it, the glass bead game. But what we're talking about now is how broadcasting with Michael McKibben became worldwide. It became global. It became instantaneous. No one had figured out how to make it scalable. Everyone at the time that he invented his IP, his intellectual property, his trade secrets, his patents, his copyrights, and they were stolen by the IBM Eclipse Foundation. They wanted it, and they knew it was the key to the success of commerce and the internet, but they couldn't get scalability down. They were stuck with an old system that he equates to like a file system. They didn't understand that what you split data up, as long as you identified it, you can then find it again. And this was the miracle of Americans, that Americans for Innovation point out that Leaders Technologies came up with. And if you study that timeline, you'll see that it basically launched us in to an entire new era. When we received scalability on the internet, it no longer was a Department of Defense Advanced Research Project Agency weaponized PSYOPs project, which then set up a bunch of Silicon Valley cardboard cutouts so that they could broadcast in all kinds of ways, broadcast through Facebook, broadcast through tweets, broadcast through PayPal, broadcast through every single thing you go on and use a single sign-on or you have a security sign-on for. That came from Leader Technologies. And they couldn't figure that out. They were all stuck with that. But when that happened, broadcasting became global. Before then, it was only global through military networks and through basically the Board of Broadcasting Governors of the Department of Defense.
It works both ways because for this to work, there has to be content out there for people to receive. And so what's happening in independent media, you guys are just creating the most amazing content. And we're scaling it around the world in lightning speed. So this is actually, we've turned it around, and it's a weapon now that we can use for our defense.
And another one of our dearest friends, Michael Thomas, from State of the Nation, has been doing this for alternative news or independent news
since
Citizens Journals.
Since late 2010, from the Gulf oil spill, remember?
From early on, when it wasn't even vogue. And he's going to be discussing with us what we can do to take down the mainstream media, because right now they have revealed themselves as much as they need to. And so you see what's happening with Covington Catholic School, a lawyer stepping up to defend the fact that mainstream media all reported what they knew to be a lie. Well, you see what happens with Melania. It's the third lawsuit she's won of basically slander, which she basically didn't even start the lawsuit. They gave in and they crushed and they paid millions of dollars because they forget that she's not a politician. They cannot slander her as they slander her husband day in, day out, 24/7, 100% of the time in mainstream media. In other words, it's the enemy of the people. The mainstream media does not represent us. The only reason that the mainstream media is regulated by the federal government is because of its commitment to we the people, to give us the true, honest, verified information that we need to be an informed electorate so that our elections can make sure that our government doesn't become a bunch of dictators. But unfortunately, under Obama, we had a dictatorship. And under Hillary, that dictatorship went into the State Department, and then it basically weaponized the CIA, the FBI to such a degree, and the NSA, that when it came time to go against Trump, look at what they did. They didn't even cover their tracks. It was so weaponized to make the Democrats have basically what would probably could have been, literally, and I'm not exaggerating, the last election we would have ever had. Because with Hillary Clinton as the president, we would have merged Canada, America, and Mexico together, as well as Central America, and any other parts of communism from South America that she could allow in, because globalism would have won the final battle in America. There would have been no more America after 4 years of Hillary. That's a guarantee, because there would have been 8 years of Hillary, or a lookalike, or a robot Hillary, or her daughter with a new law she passed. Or maybe 4 more years of Bill. Remember, Hillary said that when she got elected, America doesn't have to worry about a thing because she's putting Bill Clinton in charge of the economics, and he did such a good job during his administration that we are going to just be the most amazing country in the world because of Bill Clinton's economic strategy that was going to rule Hillary Clinton's administration.
We need to wake up. These people were going to destroy our country.
Absolutely. And now what we have with 5G is this isn't just our country. In other countries, they've already said to China, no, you can't do 5G. No, Huawei. No to the large telecommunication companies coming out of China. No to their integrated chips. No to their technology. Because why? There's no such thing as a Chinese computer that wasn't, until Trump came along, already set up for complete surveillance and to sell you things that China has yet to even start in America. Was already on all of your Lenovo computers. And with your phones, they were all set up for the 5G invasion of America through Broadcom, and I'll tell you about that in a second. And it was all set up to basically turn you into someone who already, China is already saying, because of the controls they have here in America, that there needs to be, just like in China, a credit score, a digital credit score. And now there is one. You didn't even know it existed, did you? But it seems as if Google for a long time has been preparing the American digital credit score, just like they created the one for China called Dragonfly. And so it's popping up on screens all over the place.
Is that like a FICO score?
It has everything in it. And it not only has, from Experian and the other companies that have your credit scores.
Yeah.
It has your bank account. It has what your bank thinks of you. It has what your job is. It has everything about you.
It's a social credit score, but they gave it a financial name because we're all accustomed to FICO score. So they nudged us there. So we all know that we have a number there. Then they just nudged it a little further to move into the social realm.
And during the time of Obama, it was called the U.S. Digital Service, where he took everything and made it e-government, e-ID, whatever it was.
E-passports.
E-passports. They turned it into electronic, the MERS system, everything, no matter what it was. There was nothing left when he was done that had not been turned into a centralized, digitalized system that ran through the U.S. Digital Service. And by the way, we don't even know if it exists now. It probably only runs to the bunker that Obama built his 10-foot wall around, which he never goes to that house, but where
Valerie Jarrett is.
Valerie Jarrett and Eric Holder still to this day take the Soros money, the mega millions of the Soros money left over from the Obama campaign, merged it with some more Soros money and their fake foundations, which they already had $2 billion for, which is really amazing. The Obama Library, which they're fighting over in Chicago, $2 billion.
Weeds.
We are in the weeds? Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, I'm way off in the weeds. Okay, so
Go
the
back
5G.
to 5G.
Okay, Broadcom, that's Hillary Clinton working through China. That's the reason they tried to fake everybody out by saying that it came through other cities, Singapore. And they tried to merge with Qualcom. And they were 1 inch away, getting through the CFIUS committees, five votes. On the last vote, we had warned Trump, and a few people had warned Trump, but we really became very vociferous and said, look, Trump, you have to stop the CFIUS vote because this will be the end of America. This is how they intend to kill all the women's eggs so that there are no Americans in 10 years. We're not even talking a generation. We're talking about 5G sterilizing everybody. Okay? Stop it. So what did he do? Unprecedented. He went into the CFIUS committee and said, I won't allow you to let Broadcom and Qualcomm joined together to get the single 5G contract for all of America.
It was one of the first things he did.
Yes, he stopped it. He stopped it cold. He might not have known the details, which we made sure to present to him, of who really owned Broadcom and what this was really all about. Now, $3 billion a year is the subsidy that the FCC has already granted to AT&T and to a few other companies to expand their services to include 5G. Now, don't get too upset. When they say 5G for your cable companies, unless they put the antennas outside your house, that's different. That means that it goes up above a microwave transmission and goes into the gigahertz into milliwaves, but that is usually only used in large houses or houses that are very thick brick and so on and so forth. So that it's a very short wave. It doesn't go very far and doesn't penetrate. And so it's oftentimes they will put a 5G supposed enhancer on your cable near your computer. Well, that's a little bit different. What is coming, folks, is literally you will be bathed day and night, 24/7, in a wave that can go anywhere from 5 gigahertz to 200 gigahertz. Do not believe a word they say of what range they will be transmitting, and I'll explain why in just a second. But that range is enough to kill all the insects, all the birds, and sterilize all the humans. It's crazy that this is even being allowed. And then that's what they want to put on every telephone pole, every third house on the street usually, unless it's really big houses or big lots. Some communities have fought this and said that they're too ugly, like not Palm Springs, but the one in
Palm Beach.
Palm Beach.
And,
they fought it because it was ugly.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're not going to allow 5G in the community for the rich people because they're ugly.
But the rich people don't know that they're eventually going to travel to a community that has it, unless they're going to stay right there in that community.
You're not going to be able to avoid 5G. 5G has already been completely sent. The other day, they lied. They said 3 cities, 5 cities, 7 cities, 9 cities. Now it's like about a dozen cities already have 5G already active so that they can do the experiments on the driverless cars. The driverless cars don't require it. They require very, very, very fancy, very quick speeds for their GPS, but they do not require 5G. But when they have it, then it all works perfectly well. And everything works quicker. And so what they're selling it as is quicker, quicker, quicker. Well, since 1G, since Marconi, since wireless, since Alexander Graham Bell, since the telephone, since telegraph, since the moment that we learned how to speed up intelligence, communications, data, information, there has been a war going on. And that war, first off, needs to win the war. And so then the richest people, the elite, their dynasties, these corporate monarchical dynasties, they really want to control high tech. So they steal it from all the patents and make sure that they fold it into the Richard C. Walker Internet of Things. They create a generalized patent that subsumes all other patents that are for the remote aggressive control of human beings and all devices on the face of the earth.
So in the video series that you're going to be or the audio series that you and Michael are going to be doing, and these will be coming up in the next few days, you're really going to drill down and help folks understand what they can do at the ground level to start hitting back this fake news.
Yes, for instance, the fake news of, does Trump support 5G? Well, I just told you a story where he certainly didn't support that 5G. I don't think he has a clue that the FCC has decided to give out $3 billion a year to AT&T and any other company that wants to claim, as usual, that they need their 40% government monopoly contract before they go forward. That's almost always what they do. That's how almost every wire in America was ever strung, was by we the people's tax dollars. People don't understand that Verizon and Sprint and AT&T don't own those lines. They don't own the internet. We the people own the internet. And now they want us to own 5G. They want the Chinese. They were going to let the Chinese, through Broadcom, Hillary getting her piece of the pie, come in and set up the 5G to kill all of us so they could take the 5G down when we're depopulated and they need some place for their population to expand. And that doesn't include the 17,000 satellites that were to and are ready. We know of at least 34, 35 satellites right now for the military that are broadcasting 5G from space through satellites that are controlled by Eric Schmidt and Elon Musk. So now there's going to be 17,000 of them. They want to be able to have 5G in the Sahara Desert, I guess, so that when you're out there with your camel, that you can get good reception when you're looking up a song you want to play on your telephone. It is unbelievable that no one is saying stop and look at the health ramifications. Stop the fact that every time you get a higher technology, you bow to it and you become an enslaved, completely ignorant, machine intelligent driven, non-thinking, non-rational, non-intellectual person who doesn't care about the human heart and doesn't care about the human being, not even your own physical body. Not until the radio frequency, electromagnetic frequency bombardment of your body starts to burn and create bubbles. That's the only time the health department is going to tell you that maybe we've gone to having a few too many radio frequencies going through our body. It's only the burn factor that they're concerned about. And if it doesn't burn you, then it doesn't hurt you. No, no, no. Why do you think you have to use a headset now with the modern telephones? Why do you think you don't put it to your head? Because of the technology called beamforming. When beamforming with the 5G transmitter antenna connects with a 5G phone, you can have 5 times the amount of signal going through your head. So if you hold the phone away from the very tower that is beaming that to you, and it enhances the beam and locks on and enhances it, you've just enhanced the signal by anywhere from, depending on your phone. And certainly they'll go to 6G and 7G and 8G, so that phone will basically give you the radioactive dose that it needs to kill you. But that's why you don't hold it to your head anymore. That's why the new phones, they don't want you to hold it near your head, because the research has already shown that from the first cell phones that they have 100% absolute proof that it causes brain tumors, that it causes all kinds of auditory problems, all kinds of disorders, all kinds of bacterial infections.
Well, just the other day I posted something about these TSA workers. And, they're having these sick outs. And I said, what if it isn't the sick outs? Because they have been in this whole field of, what is it, the radioactive? I mean, not radioactive, but what is the field of energy that they're all in? Since 2001, as a whole group of human beings, are we looking at, 18 years later, that's where all their cancer and their problem is coming from being in a field of electromagnetic frequencies?
Yeah, that's a 5G. It's from L3, which is a division of Lockheed Martin, which is their high-tech division, and it's called Automated Image Technology, which basically uses 5G, and they're now finding that the TSA agents, so many of them are dying of every type of cancer imaginable, because why? They're not shielded.
No, and it's almost like they were human guinea pigs, literally, to see the effects of 5G.
And right now, China wants to use us as guinea pigs. Well, Trump has not supported 5G. FCC has supported it, and it's been fought all along the way. And so there's all kinds of lawsuits, all kinds of hearings going on. Trump has actually been somewhat silent. But you know what? Read the headlines. I dare you. Plug in Trump 5G, and you're going to read headline after headline after headline. You won't have the time to read all of them that say that Trump supports 5G. Read the article. You won't hear Trump saying he supports 5G. He had first, before he changed that one vote, said we need to support 5G as fast as possible and get it out to every single rural community.
And we made sure to blast another message through independent media, and it looks like it may have reached him.
I think he realized, because who knows this, who knows that at least 40% of everything that AT&T, Sprint, Verizon, all of them, Broadcom, Qualcom, whatever they say is theirs, incorrect. At least 40% of it is owned by we the people, the taxpayers, who were given subsidies from the federal government. So the issue of broadcasting is the issue of perception management, of brainwashing, of weaponized psyops, of basically where the real war is going on in the cyber world. It's a virtual battle for your soul, for your spirit, and for your body. And if you don't know this, then you need to pinch yourself and wake up, because it is beaming through you right now. And every time that you have association with these devices and you are not conscious, then it basically steals a part of you. So broadcasting needs to be controlled by honest people, not by the Department of Defense, not by a rogue CIA, not by the Global Engagement Center, not by the current administration, which has now made it legal during the Obama administration to propagandize America for the administration's ideas. We need to end that. We need to sever our ties with the Brits, who are the experts at this, who have infiltrated every election, every broadcast, every Avid and ISIS management prompting sentence that tells the Rhodes Scholar, CIA, FBI, horrible prostitutes what we're supposed to think. We need to take back the Fourth Estate. We need to end the war of the mainstream media as the opposition group, the Democrats, who are warring against the Republicans. And it's not even that anymore. It's the globalist, socialist, fascist warring against simple conservative people. You can't turn on the news and find conservative news. So when Michael Thomas and Michael McKibben and myself speak tomorrow, we hope that we will come up with some good suggestions on what we can do to win the war against the mainstream media.